Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, where I'm reporting from the Magento Live event here in Barcelona. And I came here wanting to learn more about exactly what does the Adobe and Magento partnership really mean. And I quickly learned that Adobe makes every experience personal, while Magento is making every moment shoppable. But the community and open source tech still seem to remain at the heart of everything, which has got to be a great thing. Now, the main theme here is experience-driven commerce. So I set off with my backpack and my laptop and microphone, not searching for truth and destiny like Caine in Kung Fu, but searching for stories that would interest you all about industries that you wouldn't necessarily associate with technology and how they're leveraging tech to create experiences. And I was also particularly inspired today after listening to Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden. Yes, you heard me right. He performed a keynote here that really resonated with me. He talked about the music industry, of course, but also by how not evolving with the times. We might have ended up with free music, but we've also got $100 t-shirts and even more expensive concert tickets. It's a model that doesn't work or serve anyone. But while here, I came across the lovely people at DC Thomson, which is a private company and one of the leading media organisations in the UK. It is headquartered in Dundee, Scotland, with a London base in the world-famous Fleet Street. The company publishes newspapers, magazines, but has recently diversified into new media, digital technology, retail and television interests too. So I wanted to explore how this very traditional industry has diversified into new media and creating experiences for its readers. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Barcelona so we can speak with Kirsten Morrison and Alan Melrose from DC Thomson. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kirsten Morrison. I'm Head of Digital for DC Thomson. We're a Scottish-based publisher, publishing newspapers and magazines.
My name's Alan Melrose. I work with Kirsten in the digital department. My background is largely advertising and looking at commercial opportunities, and mostly in the digital space now.
So DC Thomson is one of the leading media organisations in the UK, publishing newspapers and magazines. But can you offer an overview of exactly what you guys do and what brings you to Magento Live this year?
Yeah, so we look after the digital team at DC Thomson Media, which is a media part of DC Thomson Group, publishing newspapers and magazines. We're the product side of that. So the team in digital basically build any digital assets. We've got websites, applications, even the electronic page turners. But the reason we're here at Magento Live is we've started turning our attention and really helping the business diversify its revenue lines. And that's really diversifying into e-commerce. So we currently have 3 online shops, one of them in Magento 2, 2 of them in Magento 1, about to migrate to Magento 2. So we're really here, I guess, to network. We're really keen to be one of Magento partners. We're kind of just starting on that journey. So it's really about, for DC Thomson, which is very much a legacy publisher, as you say, transitioning to be much more, much more diversified in terms of its revenue lines.
So I would imagine the digitisation of everything has been challenging for the traditional industry of publishing physical media, such as newspaper magazines. So can you tell me more about the kind of challenges that you've encountered? I mean, how have you overcome them and why you believe the future is actually bright for publications?
Yeah, it has been very challenging because we've got to protect our print revenues, which are still the majority of our revenues for DC Thomson Media. So we've very much got a kind of, a 3-pronged strategy that protect core revenues, diversify revenue lines and launch new products. So we're very much in that kind of diversification and launching new products spot of that. I guess it's been very much slowly catch a monkey with especially some of our editorial colleagues who are very, very print-centric and just really making that journey into digital space, I think. So we've been very careful about how much content we've given away online over the years. We're now much more open to that. It has been quite a journey for us until about 5 years ago. We almost had no digital products with DC Thomson. So we have been experimenting with lots of different things, getting people comfortable with the amount of content that we put online and ensuring we're not accelerating any kind of print declines or print revenue declines.
Yeah, I mean, my background's advertising, so I guess the big switch for us is the fact that, like, I sold print advertising for 10 years, and then 12 years ago moved to the digital space. But the reality is you can't make the same revenues from print, from digital as you do from print. And most of that digital revenue, although digital advertising is now worth more than any other single media, the reality is it goes to Facebook and Google. So that, I guess that's another reason why we're here, because actually if you look at only having a model that's based around two revenue lines, subscription and ad revenue, it doesn't really stack in the future for publishing. So that's why we're having to diversify and move into things like e-commerce platforms. Because the thing about it is we've got amazing brand loyalty and we've got huge audiences. And our audiences are bigger now than they've ever been. But it might not be we have to do advertising all the time or a subscription. They might want something else. So how do we get the most? That's the same challenge for every publisher in the UK, across the world. So,
yeah, I would say at different industries as well. I mean, we've both just seen Bruce Dickinson, haven't we, where he was saying that
music was the first to be disrupted, right?
Yeah, so, music's free, but the T-shirts cost $100 now, so it's the same thing.
Yeah, so I mean, we have paywalls, which makes it slightly easier for some of our products, but because culturally, I guess the thing is, as a business, how do we perceive giving away content for free? Well, actually, if that content drives access to a paywall, or it drives actually a piece of content and drives the purchase of a product that's either our own branded product or somebody else's branded where we've got a margin, or in the case of some of the products we've got, and we've become very good at selling gin, and that's now a revenue, that's a genuine revenue line for us. So it's just, I guess, just finding different nuances in the market.
Absolutely. So the theme here at Magento Live is experience-driven commerce. So can you tell me more about how you're embracing technology and the kind of experiences that it has enabled you to create and not only remain relevant, but also continue to thrive in a digital age?
So over the last 3, probably best part of 4 years, we've been developing a MarTech stack that's quite sophisticated. And it essentially means we can push and pull data everywhere, but what it gives us is a single customer view across 28 of our websites. Mm-hmm. So when somebody comes on, even when they're anonymous, we know what they're looking at, what they're watching, potentially what they're browsing, and we can offer them a personalised service based on what they're looking at, based on what we think they would like to see. Something we heard from enough in Magento, one of the Magento breakout sessions this morning, making sure that we're using all those kind of cues to make sure we give the user what they want to see. So we have a monthly reach of around about 14 million monthly page views. So essentially what we can do with that huge marketing engine is make sure we're driving customers where we think they'll have the best experience, whether that's a product being put in front of them, a service, a piece of content, or whether we can actually sweat any piece of content to make sure that we can maximize the value of that content. So we spend now quite a lot of time, because the value of ad inventories dropped so much because of the programmatic challenge all publishers are facing. They actually really sweat each piece of content now to make sure we're putting either the right call to action to drive through to our shops, the right call to action to drive through to an event we may be having, or to a subscription offer, or to another piece of content even. We really kind of sweat those pages. So that single customer view really allows us to maximise the value of all of our content and all of our users.
It was interesting seeing the presentation this morning. We are quite young to e-commerce space. So although we had shops for quite a long time, as a department, we only really got involved in them with the rebuild for the first time. Mm-hmm. But we do a lot of personalisation with content. So, like, we've got a data management platform where we store our profiles, and we do things like we do paywall detection, we change content on the page. We know we get a 12% uplift on average when we change content from related to recommended, and we can do all that on real time. And it was interesting listening to the discussion this morning when they were saying, well, actually, most of the e-commerce personalization comes post-transaction. Yeah. Well, actually, and they were like, well, what you need to do is look at this rich kind of seed of behavioural triggers and cues that you've got all the way up, and they might never make a purchase. So that's quite encouraging for us, because like that's bread and butter. We've been doing that for years. I mean, we'll do one-to-one personalization in emails. Like I said, we change content on the page all the time. We put different offers in front of people for our paywalls, depending on which segment they sit on. So that's quite good, because it's kind of like, well, actually, to develop more or quicker an e-commerce platform should be relatively straightforward. We're just not sure we've got the right tools.
No, because we generally have the tech stack in place. I think that's an important thing. And that's led to us, I guess the other thing about that is it's led to us cleaning up all our data. So ahead of GDPR, we had already spent 2 years cleaning up our data to ensure we understood it. Not really with GDPR in mind so much, but obviously when it came, we knew we were going to be compliant.
And it's all first-party data. So we don't deal in third-party data. I mean, I guess the bit that's going to be interesting for us now is, because we're only weeks into our first M2 deploy, is actually finding out what happens when we connect all of that stuff. So, I mean, obviously Adobe are announcing that they've put their marketing cloud into Magento. So I guess we've got our own little marketing cloud that sits, so we've got our own like a management unification system, we've got a data management platform, we've got an email marketing platform, they're all connected together. Yeah. So like, how do we get the most out of that?
So over the last few years, I've noticed that by adopting personalised services, I've gone from reading everything in a magazine and newspaper to only what interests me. I'm curious, have you explored ways to still enable those happy accidents that cause delightful experiences that you used to get from browsing bookshelves in a bookshop or picking up something that you would never ever find in a recommended for you algorithm? Or do you think that's gone forever?
No, it's definitely not gone. So we've spent a bit of time testing this primarily, and the reality is that, so what we find is that, for example, email is probably the easiest one to explain. Mm-hmm. If we just personalize an email top to bottom, we do get a bigger lift across the board in terms of how much content's read, because it's kind of like, this is based on what we think your profile, or we know your profile is. But what we miss is that curated content piece, because the editor's skill actually is in putting together content and understanding its audience. So when an editor actually picks 2 or 3 little gems that they just know are going to fly, those stories like get way more traction than anything else. But we get a better spread of personalised content. So we'll get a product coming out later this month, or next, what are we in, October? Yeah, probably later this month, which will, and personalisation is a big part of that. And we did toy with the idea of making it entirely personalised, but it just feels intuitively wrong. Because actually people still want, well, you work in publishing, right? So people do want people to tell them what they should be reading or consuming. Yeah, and I think the example I looked at this morning was Netflix. I mean, I've got a Netflix account as well. But actually, sometimes you just go into the menu because you want to see what you're not being able to see.
You want to go rogue.
Exactly. What am I not getting? Because it's over-personalised. That's just my opinion, but I think that's...
Yeah, no, me too.
Because you stumble through things, don't you?
Yeah.
You find it and you go,
and that's the beautiful things that you come across that way, you know? The things that you never would have chose.
What Bruce Dickinson's story that he just gave just now about having a coffee with somebody and then ending up investing in an edible glider. That stuff doesn't happen if you only see what's in front of you.
Absolutely. And I think as well, I've noticed, well, I've recently come off holiday, and we're all looking in a smartphone all the time, aren't we? Looking down. And I don't know about you guys, but I only get my inspiration when I put that phone down and I'm just staring at something, staring out a train window. But we're getting rid of those moments now.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So what really makes DC Thomson stand out in the crowd for me is your consumers, clients, or creators. And they all span across multiple generations. So as a result, you're at the forefront of change and are organically stimulating the imagination to produce dynamic and compelling content. So what are the biggest changes that you've seen from your audiences that span those multiple generations, and how are you changing to meet their increasing expectations?
Like, I guess one of the things is our audience has grown massively.
Yeah.
I think their engagement levels are also growing. We do a lot of work around content now to make sure that we are producing the right content for online, not just driven by what we're creating offline. Mm-hmm. So because of that, we can basically tell our editorial colleagues not just to work on gut instinct, which they used to do very much, but also we've got a great phrase in the digital department: you don't have to guess anymore. A great example for us is golf. Because we publish out in Scotland, our morning newspapers in very golf-rich areas, we write a lot of print content around golf online. That's not very successful for us. We write content around mountain biking online. It's massively engaged with. So now we're starting to inform our editorial colleagues about where to put the effort online. So it makes us much more efficient as newsrooms and makes us much more engaged from an audience perspective as well. I think one of the other kind of really big changes we've seen is the uptake in our metered products. We mentioned earlier we've got 3 metered paywalls on our 2 dailies and one of our kind of digital-only products, Energy Voice, and the uptake, so the appetite to pay for content, quality content, especially in this kind of fake news generation we're living in, that causes publishers a lot of problems. But luckily, I think because of the type of regional, especially publisher we are, we really are embraced and engaged with our print titles too, but especially online, we're kind of getting around that and actually putting some kind of value in our content, I think, is important.
We've taken that same base principle from publishing. We originally built our like our audience tool actually to accelerate advertising revenues. But then we realised how powerful it would be for this bit, which is informing editorial content, right? And now we just apply that from our rebuilding the shop is interesting because we've got to apply that same business logic to the shop. So we had most of our products were generally sold offline through our call centre, but everything was in the shop. 17,000 products were in the shop. We did a bit of analysis on it and realised that 92% of them were never sold. So that's been a good experience as well. And then understanding a little bit about the shopping habits of our readers because they are a little bit older. Yeah. So understanding now that actually for us a really important point of purchase is give them a good experience online, show them the products, and then make it really easy for them to phone because they still prefer to phone up and order products as opposed to maybe just transacting online.
So do you guys get to hear about any feedback from anyone, any of your readers? That
Oh, yes.
both good and bad, I suspect.
Mainly bad.
Mostly you only hear from people when they have a problem,
sure.
right? Yeah.
We've got a customer service team sits within what we call our enterprise function, where our shops live, and we've got quite a loyal page-turning audience. So if for any reason they cannot access that electronic page turner in e-edition, we get a huge amount of feedback. So I guess we find out about any problems with the technology. Sometimes it's user behaviour problems, and sometimes it's technology. It's a mixture, but we hear about it immediately. So if there's problems, we can get onto whether that's our technology or someone else's technology, but we're still a custodian of that brand. So we do hear feedback really, really quickly. I guess what's kind of not a verbal here, but the great thing about the new Magento 2 shop is all our metrics are massively positive. So we knew we would get increased, much better speed load, massively improve. We knew that would come with we went to the cloud edition. So that's obviously improved hugely, which is really important for e-commerce, but all our other metrics are massively up, massively increased.
Surprisingly so.
So I guess that's a kind of, you see it in the results rather than hearing it from the customers. You can see they are buying more frequently and more volume.
Not more customers, interestingly, because one of our challenges is the fact that we're still a traditional kind of print business with the same skills with a digital department as opposed to being a business traditionally transition into a digital business yet. I think that will come in time. So we've not actually managed to move the number of users that are on our site, but we've increased the number of conversions by 70%. Like our conversion rate from search is up 30%. Our revenue's already kind of paid for the license for year 1 in 3 months. So it was a big risk for us because we were on Magento Community Edition. So we had to make a recommendation as a department to go and spend a load of money for a license. And there was a bit of eyebrow raising of why do you need to spend that much money? So it's been good.
So what does Magento mean to you, and how is it helping you achieve your experience-driven goals? I mean, you have mentioned a little bit about this.
I think the move from something that's free, that's something you're paying for, puts a real focus on KPIs, so the business has become a bit more aligned to that. I think the Magento 2, because we've had such positive KPIs in the first few months, without really spending a lot of money around marketing and trying to drive more people to our platform itself, means it gives us real confidence that we can get ROI on any kind of marketing budget we invest in that kind of area. So I think it's just given us one focus and two real confidence that actually we can, given this big marketing machine we've got with our network of 4 million monthly users, we can actually drive them to the site, and if we get them there, we're really likely to get them to purchase.
Yeah, I mean, we work in community software, did the evaluation. We were always assumed that Magento would come out top, and it did, and the cloud edition came out massively on top. But our developers like working in community, so everything we do in Words and Pictures is in WordPress, everything we do in shops is in Magento, and that community support is really important. I think what's been good for Martin, who's here as well at the conference as a developer, is he gets really good support as well, which is slightly different. He's not used to that because unless you're with Automatic and WordPress, you're basically looking for stuff on Stack Overflow, etc., etc. Yeah. Whereas now he's got this really nice mix of, we've got this community around and they all help each other, but if we really somewhere to actually go. And he mentioned that today, and it was interesting because he was saying that a lot of people are asking the same questions as him. So It's all new. Magento 2 is such a new product.
So is there anything that excites you both at Magento Live this year? And are there any key takeaways from the event that you're going to return home with?
Personalisation bit was a big thing for me because we've got that skill set sitting inside our department, and we've done it in other areas, but we haven't spent any time doing it in the shop. So I think we literally scratched the surface of what potentially we could do as an e-commerce platform. And also, our shops at the moment are really around our own branded products. So we're selling our own subscriptions, a bit of holidays, and some branded products, and some other stuff that traditionally actually sat. The company I used to work for, with the Daily Mail, and it's kind of like that whole kind of newspaper sale of flowers in March and sort of, aprons and tea towels and all that stuff. But actually, going back to your point about having 4 or 5 million users, well, we know what they're interested in because we're writing content about it. So why do we not just deliver them more diverse products? Develop our e-commerce capability, because that's a much more successful return than some of the other stuff that we're doing.
So looking to the future, so what is next for DC Thomson Media? Is there anything else you can share with me today?
There's quite a lot of things to come. I think now we've got the confidence around e-commerce. We're spending, as a company, a lot of time around this diversification of revenues, launching new products. The thing that we've got, having the single customer view, is we know what our audience is interested in. We can segment them into passion points. We've spent quite a lot of time over the last year around innovation. What does innovation look like for DC Thomson Media? What's that process, as well as what do the ideas come out, and how do we then handle those ideas? Because one thing we're not short of as a business is creative ideas, where we're actually really good at that bit. What we've got to kind of figure out is how we prioritise those and how we put those into a pipeline. I think the e-commerce opportunity, because we know so much about our users, and we've got a great example around gin. We built a segment around our audience who like gin. Gin is a trending topic. It's obviously massive in search, and we built a proof of concept website around a very small segment which we'd identified on our own network in gin, and we basically wrote content for that in our network. Once we got a critical mass, we built out a website, and then we basically have grown that website almost organically, but writing for search, writing in a way that search would pick it up. So we now own huge authority in Google on gin. It's called the Ginkin, but we really specialise in kind of gin subscriptions, pink gin, lavender gin, all the kind of specialist gins that have come out. So I think that model is definitely something that we'll take for the future, and whether that's the affiliate models, which is currently what the Ginkin is, or actually we know we, on that particular site, sell a lot of gin products for other people, partnerships, or what other e-commerce sites can we get into. Now we've got a real handle on that kind of data layer, really understanding how to finesse it, really understanding how to write for search and grow that audience. That with the Ginkin, we own kind of many of the number one search terms on Google above the big gin distillers or the big supermarkets, and we've done that without investing a lot of money or a lot of time. So I kind of think the next iterations of those are that kind of e-commerce element of owning, I guess, areas of passion, areas of interest that we can grow our audiences around.
And voice activated search.
Also, that you're exploring voice activation search as well.
Yeah, we had an innovation day about a month ago. I was pretty dubious about it, to be honest, but the stats were pretty mind-blowing in terms of when you look at sort of the 18 to 25-year-olds, 80% of their search is done speaking into a phone. Yeah. I think what we found was that people aren't being brought to the point of transaction yet, but all of that research, discovery, all of that stuff in that group of people has been done by asking Google or Siri.
Yeah.
It's really, I've been playing around with it to try. It's so foreign for somebody my age.
Yeah, but I must admit, I saw it for the first time recently where my nephew, his dad was looking up something on the internet, and he says, "Dad, why are you typing? Why don't you just ask Google?"
Exactly.
And I think,
we're great at storytelling, so the opportunities for us can be quite interesting from that point of view in terms of, can we build experiences or whatever that is around our storytelling capabilities into just a different format, really. It's just publishing in a different way.
Well, a huge thank you for coming on today. But before I do let you go, can I just ask that you remind the listeners the best way of staying up to date with your progress, or maybe even reach out to your team if they've got any questions after listening to our conversation today?
Probably best just to Google DC Thomson or DCT Media. And happy to get in touch with anyone. Yeah, happy to talk about our tech stuff and what we've been doing over the last few years if anyone wants to reach out.
So I love how DC Thomson Media is rising to the challenge of ensuring publications not only remain relevant, but provide unique experiences. So in a world of echo chambers and cherry-picking content, I do think it's needed more than ever to maintain that diversity of thought that helps us all grow. More than anything, just a big thank you for taking the time to speak with me today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Magento Live.
Thank you.
Cheers.
There were so many big takeaways from our conversation today. I mean, I love how they're passionate about innovation and exploring new ways to create experiences, but without accelerating the decline in traditional print sales. Because there are some harsh realities around ad revenues in digital being much, much less than that in traditional print. But also as a result of these challenges, they've been forced to diversify, and their success in unlikely areas such as creating experiences for gin lovers is a great example of knowing when to diversify and when to innovate. And I also love the point that Alan raised about sometimes not wanting to view something on Netflix or reading a news story that was recommended for us by an algorithm. Yes, personalisation is great and it makes our lives easier some of the time, or in fact most of the time. But too much of it is a bad thing. Stumbling across things that we would never choose to look at through those happy accidents in life is possibly what helps us grow as individuals. But enough of me preaching my sermon on the mic. Let me know your thoughts about everything we've talked about today, this week's event, or in fact anything at all. And you can reach me by email, techblogwriter@outlook.com, or Twitter @Neil C. Hughes. But I'm afraid we're out of time on today's episode, but don't worry, I will return tomorrow with another great guest. So a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.